This is Eden with Helixx VR. Today I'll be reviewing Diesel Express VR by Lazy Lab Games. It's on the HTC Vive and is currently priced at approximately $10, €10 or £7. It's currently in early access and is still a work in progress and is being reviewed as such. Diesel Express VR is a shooter where the basic premise is to defend the train from bandits who come at you in jeeps, transports and even gyrocopters. You need to be very accurate in this VR shooter. Aiming in the general direction of the attacking vehicle just isn't good enough. You need to aim at the head or the body of either the driver or the shooter. Taking out either one is good enough. In the case of the gyrocopter, you need to shoot out the fuel tank or the pilot to bring it down. There are currently 8 levels and a shooting range. There is a beginner difficulty mode, which is the notable difference of having a floating aiming reticule, and there's an advanced mode without it. There are a selection of guns which are unlockable by gaining XP points and ranking up. The major positive of this game is that the core gameplay is actually surprisingly fun. I really enjoyed having a protracted gunfight while the enemies chased me down, and that's really the basis of the game. I was particularly impressed by the way recoil is done, as it often seems to be forgotten about. I found that the music set the atmosphere quite well, and that the other sounds also fit in well. There is a lot of fun to be had when the cars start crashing into each other and flipping in the air. I'm not convinced that it's always meant to happen, but it's still amusing regardless. It's also fairly inexpensive, which is always a plus. The major negative point of this game is that it's very repetitive. Levels 1 to 8 all have very similar scenery and the same enemies. The only big difference I noticed was the amount of enemies. When you leave the beginner mode and lose the reticules, the game also suddenly becomes much more difficult. I went from flying through mission 8 on beginner to struggling on level 1 because of this. There also isn't really much reason to replay levels. Finally, although it's fairly minor, the controls weren't particularly intuitive of how to select levels and such, and there are small little things like only learning from Steam update that you could shoot at the fuel tank of the gyrocopter rather than something in game actually explaining it. To wrap up this review, Diesel Express VR has fun gameplay and a good amount of levels to go through. It does need improvements in making those levels more unique and some work in making the game more replayable. It has a good base to work from and it is in early access, so I can forgive that. Once again, this is Eden from Helixx VR. If you enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe.